Hello everyone, I am Florence Bénézit, an expert and partner in data governance and AI. Welcome to this new episode of The Bridge, Artefact's media platform on the impact of AI on work. Hello Céline, I'm pleased to welcome you today.
Hello Florence, thank you for welcoming me to these beautiful premises.
So together we conducted the study. You conducted the survey among French employees. On our side, at Artefact, we conducted a series of company interviews to shed light on what the survey taught us. Can you explain the particularities of Odoxa and why you are well positioned to conduct this kind of survey? So our slogan at Odoxa is Odoxa, the decisive opinion.
So it doesn't mean that we, as pollsters, but have completely fixed opinions on things and that we impose our opinions on people, on the French. But it means that we try our best to answer the question. That is to say, just because the sponsor comes with a complicated question, it doesn't mean we're going to provide a bunch of numbers. And ultimately, in the end, we will have more questions than answers. So we try to answer the question clearly. And at Artefact, you had this need to know today, where French employees stood with artificial intelligence. So the idea was to survey both a representative sample of French people to know what they generally think and to have enough French employees who use AI professionally. And for that, we conducted an oversample of more than 1,000 employees using AI. And this is really a first for you. It's unprecedented. It really allows us to delve into the use of AI, how, why, by whom, etc. There are many answers in this survey.
So do French employees use AI today? For now, not much.
When we look at the numbers, we have 12% of employees who use AI in their work or who are really directly impacted, even though I don't really like that word, in any case, who have a direct relationship with artificial intelligence. So you see, it's still a minority of French people. Now, we can imagine that it will progress quite quickly, since we have 30% who add to these 12%, telling us certainly we do not use AI. But in our company, AI is used. And then we also have 17% of employees who say, I understood that my company was going to start using AI. So in the end, this population is almost 60% of the employee population who today have a relationship with AI or will soon have a relationship with AI. Now, we won't go into detail, but almost all sectors use AI, some more than others, notably the commerce sector, obviously large retail, use AI extensively. However, there is a huge age difference. That is to say, within the same companies, we have 29% of young employees, those aged between 15 and 24, who tell us, yes, today I use AI. And when we look at the older employees, the oldest in the company, well, only 5% of them do. So that's something I will turn back to you. A question that is, could this ultimately risk further accelerating the gap we already see in companies with older employees being completely sidelined?
That's an excellent question. What we see is that the risk of being downgraded is not necessarily on the seniors. It is on the people who will not adopt AI in general. In interviews, we discovered that those who deploy AI find that seniors are just as curious as juniors. And they experiment with AI just as much. However, we must still qualify this to understand the generational gap. First of all, young people have tasks that lend themselves more to AI than those of seniors. They have tasks, perhaps more repetitive or already incorporated, like scheduling appointments, writing a report. They have more junior tasks. So juniors have more tasks that lend themselves well to AI. And this can explain this gap. Also juniors, they have more to learn. And I can see myself we can clearly see that AI is a source of information and allows for skill development. So once again, an interest, more interesting. But we also looked at your survey results with you and noticed that there is a high adoption rate. So twice as many managers as operational staff. And they have a more varied use In other words, we really notice that it's when there is an interest in using it that people use it, and it's not necessarily a generational gap. However, there might be a lot of enthusiasm, a greater familiarity among juniors, and we rely on them to bring seniors on board with AI adoption. So this AI is not perfect, it can make mistakes. Are these French employees still happy with their use of AI? Yes, we can say that in the end, they are happy.
You'll see, it's even spectacular. And that, it rather suggests that AI is not losing momentum. In fact, there you have it, truly, because trying AI is adopting it. When we ask employees who use AI if they are satisfied, we have a 92% satisfaction rate. It almost seems like we invented this number to please artificial intelligence because many brands and companies would love to have these satisfaction rates. Why do they like AI? Because it's practical, and we'll delve a little into the details later to understand what AI is used for, how it can help us be more profitable and save time. But it is pleasing. In fact, and that's also why ultimately the French are so satisfied when they use AI. They tell us that it allows them to work with more enjoyment, more simply. They also feel freer in their schedule thanks to AI. We will also see later that it creates new connections with other employees, which was somewhat unexpected because one might have imagined it would make them want to engage more in dialogue with the machine. So really, what we see is that there is a strong satisfaction indicating that it should continue with other employees who will start using artificial intelligence in the coming years.
Wonderful. Everyone will get on board and we will improve the quality of work life for all.
Well, yes, maybe, and I hope so. Now, those who use AI also see some drawbacks. It's not all, and to some extent, I would say, fortunately, because if everyone started embracing AI happily without questioning it, that's when it would become concerning. However, the French are asking quite a few questions, wondering, well, is it good for our economy? Is it really that secure? When I input information into AI, are they not company information that will end up in the system? And they also ask questions that I would say are metaphysical. That is to say, we talked about pleasure. There is an incredible time saving. This is the key figure of this study. We are only talking about it now. But when we ask employees who use AI, how much time do they save? Well, they save on average 1 hour per day. Oh yes, that's a lot. So it's still huge. And a quarter of them save up to 2 hours per day. So it's really an enormous time saving with the question that immediately follows. That is to say, if I save so much time, won't my company quickly realize that it will save a lot of money by letting me go? So that's really the issue, the question that might arise. At some point, will the company still need me? So it's interesting to see this with you who are immersed in it, who are with companies to help them implement AI. Do you think AI can replace humans?
That's the key question.
The €1,000 question, or even more?
Yes, exactly. The fundamental question that indeed also motivated this entire study. Well, it's undeniable that AI is a productivity lever and that it arouses the appetite of companies. Let's not hide it. On the other hand, what's positive is that we haven't had a single case in all our interviews where people lost their jobs. The worst case we had was a company that said, I will no longer need my call center provider. So there is still a part of the economy that will suffer a bit from this automation. On the other hand, there are many other very positive aspects that will stimulate the economy. Before getting there, what needs to be understood is that since this AI makes mistakes, it will need supervision. And when we say supervision, we mean work. It's like in the history of automation. We automated work in the fields, yet we still have the farmer on his tractor. We added machines in factories and we need foremen. We will have AI foremen, and in reality, we will need a lot of them. And a large part of the workers who will be augmented by AI will have to check that the AI has done its job correctly.
Yes, it's true that in the study we see that it requires reorganizations. We have 27% of employees telling us that we are in departments where responsibilities had to evolve. We have 60% who say that we are observing a transformation of processes, simplification or automation. We have 81% telling us that all this has led to significant productivity gains. What is interesting is to know, however, what happens to those we could do without today. In fact, those we can do without today and those we will be able to do without in the future with AI. So what we observed is that most of them, in reality, knew from the very beginning of the AI deployment what they were going to become.
And this might also be one of the keys to a successful AI deployment. You have to involve people. They need to be part of this adventure. In most cases, they knew from the start that they would be directed towards more interesting, more complex tasks, and especially tasks that are much more, as we say in English, client-facing. They are going to be much closer to the clients, and in fact, they will get closer to the human aspect, which they really enjoy. Another part, I would say it's another half. In fact, no one lost their job because, anyway, the team was overwhelmed. They already had way too much work with they knew they wouldn't be able to hire. And so in reality, it just made the work manageable.
And it restored a quality of life to people who were extremely overwhelmed.
Yes, and provided better service, especially since there were clients who couldn't receive all the desired service. And in fact, it allowed us to deliver more services to more people.
So it's true that this is a topic that will need to be explored over time to understand the impact on employment of AI. In this survey, we see that AI has created new jobs within companies. 49% of employees say that new positions had to be created to ensure the proper functioning of AI in their company, either data specialist roles or others. Other types of positions. Moreover, they tell us that the outcome is rather positive. Well, it's not extraordinary, but we have some, when we ask them in your department, would you say that the integration of AI has resulted in more job creation than destruction? 25% tell us that, 20% tell us the opposite, or more destruction than creation. So that's a 5-point difference between the two. Most of them tell us there is no change. So we can say there's a small bonus for employment. And regarding the evolution of positions, it's interesting to see this, meaning who are the people who have been able to be hired or which positions are favored within the company. The majority of people, 46%, tell us that it doesn't bring any change, meaning that ultimately it's the same people, but who start working with AI with, however, a stronger hiring, or in any case, a stronger engagement of employees who have a technical profile within the company. So with AI, is it somewhat the rise of the technicians?
It's the rise of the technicians, obviously, but not only that. In reality, AI will also stimulate the economy to the point of needing to create jobs in non-technical fields. Throughout history, productivity gains, all these advancements have stimulated the economy and encouraged the creation of businesses, which is job creating. And we believe that with generative AI, which allows for the acceleration of innovation cycles, we can prototype an application very simply today. R&D teams can conduct simulations much more quickly and invent the new products and services of tomorrow much faster. So we think that there will be a lot of business creation, in any case, creation of services related, thanks to this innovation. And we will indeed need to sell these new products, ensure the service. And so there will be an economic boost and job creation. Moreover, another study by the World Economic Forum states that job creation will far exceed job destruction.
Let's hope that this is indeed the case. So there is a question that will also arise and is addressed in the study, which is the training of people who go through AI. We clearly see a need for training from the employees. French employees who use or do not use AI, but in this case, focusing on those who use it today, there is still half who have not been trained at all, who are learning gradually how AI works. And among these people, and among those who have been trained, there is still half who say, okay, I've been trained, but I would like it to go a bit further, to have more advanced training. And what they are asking for is not so much training on usage, as we see in quite a few studies we are conducting on AI at the moment, but rather training on AI security, ethical questions, what can be done, what cannot be done. Also, a bit of a question of guidance, meaning they would like to have a clearer framework on what they can or cannot do with AI. So we have more teachings, requests like that. When you meet business leaders or people who are supposed to implement AI, you say they realize this need for training?
They all talk about training. It's a recurring topic. Everyone is well aware of this need for training. However, there remains the question of what training to provide. And there's still a bit of uncertainty we find around this question.
It's true that I didn't say, but there are also many requests regarding data protection. So that's really, and intellectual property, we're not quite sure what it entails.
What's very interesting is that it clearly shows that French employees have understood the value of experimentation. For this AI revolution to work, everyone will need to experiment with this AI and find out how it will transform work. And actually, to dare to experiment, you need a reassuring framework. We also found that in qualitative interviews, French employees are looking for inspiration. We have an HR manager who told us it's no longer about training, it's about informing. And the big challenge is that everyone has a different job, and so it requires a lot of contextualization and personalization of this training, and that's the whole issue and difficulty that departments are facing HR today. There is another difficulty, which is that there are constant technological disruptions, and so the necessary skills are constantly evolving. There are even departments that use AI to maintain their skills framework and continuously adapt to these changing skill needs.
Yeah, so it's true that it's an incredible challenge. And so maybe that's also what you're saying about the fact that what you're saying, by the way, I don't know why I suddenly started addressing you formally, but it's the seriousness of our conversation. What you're saying about that is that at the moment we see in the company that there isn't much training, there isn't much information either. Let's say about the rules that have been implemented. That is to say, in our survey we see that only 1/3 of companies have provided best practice recommendations. A good third we have also communicated to raise awareness among their employees about opportunities and risks, and 26% have set up support in case of difficulty. In practice, in short, each time it's a minority of companies that have established this framework. And also a minority that have embraced artificial intelligence to develop proprietary systems. And so it will be interesting to see in terms of quality what this yields, because in the survey we see that companies that have invested specifically in proprietary AI, well, it's very, very different from the others. That is to say, they observe profitability levels that are 3 times higher, and the impact on employment is also 3 times higher. Is this... Once you say it like that, you say, good, well, so should everyone invest in proprietary AI, but is it a wishful thinking that will be difficult to implement in many companies, or can it be done with support?
Of course it can be done, and you are absolutely right. This last figure is one of the major lessons of this survey, which is that off-the-shelf AI is not necessarily as effective as AI that the company will take into its own hands and shape it in its own image. The transformation, certainly, will happen with the employees, but it will also occur thanks to this corporate governance, which will structure the approaches and equip the employees with both a framework of trust and tools to truly experiment and make this AI work. A very simple example: to truly transform, there must be a trustworthy AI. And for the AI to deliver results that we can trust, it must be connected to reliable information. So just creating AIs that are linked to the company's data, reliable and governed data, will be key to succeeding in this venture.
Yes, and I want to add to that, because it's true that in the survey we see that 7 out of 10 employees who use AI feel they have better access to knowledge. But as long as we're at it, it's better that this knowledge is seriously verified to prevent, in reality, and especially for young employees who use AI a lot, that they gain skills through artificial intelligence.
Yes, that's one of the great promises of AI. It will be to improve the employability of employees, helping them to change positions and take on their new roles more easily. We were talking about it with the juniors earlier, but it will be true at all stages of a career. We believe that the employee of tomorrow will be a generalist who can much more easily step out of their role, collaborate better, and change positions internally within companies, or even completely change fields and retrain. What we've noticed in our qualitative interviews is that there are many managers, especially, who are worried about the future of their employees' cognitive abilities. Will AI make us lazy? Basically, will AI think for us if we become stupid? Have you managed to address this question?
To know if people were becoming stupid? Yes, exactly. We haven't done a quiz before and after. However, what we can say is that employees who use AI are completely aware, they are conscious of this risk. That is to say, we see that every time there are employees who tell us, actually, I am careful because I know that I might trust AI too much. And as a result, not verify the information. There's a third of the employees. It also depends a lot on people's character, sometimes also on their gender, since women are often more into over-verifying than men. But if we make AI work and spend our time verifying what it has done, in fact, we waste our time and we end up not doing it. We ultimately show too much caution. So really, we see that there is this awareness among employees, and that it's not bad either when we talk about training or framework, to be able to remind that it is interesting when using AI for certain tasks, to take the opportunity to perhaps learn new things and continue to make it work. Their brain, while being very attentive, ensures that their brain checks the work of artificial intelligence as much as possible.
Yes, by the way, in our qualitative interviews, we realized that companies were deploying quite a few tactics to cognitively stimulate their teams. For example, prohibiting copy-pasting in ChatGPT. Oh, really? Yes. There you go. That's a tactic. It forces you to rewrite, so we still save time, but we can't be completely lazy. But, well, that's a joke. Aside from that, we have seen every time that companies disconnect, at least for the agents, they disconnect the AI agents from time to time, sometimes 2%, 10% of the time, for several reasons. One, to maintain expertise, forcing humans to continue doing things manually so that people don't forget how to do them. But above all, since the business context changes, doing things manually also allows you to feel the business, to sense the direction, and to adapt the agents so that they always remain at the expected level of excellence. So, if only to maintain and have AI that remains intelligent, it will be necessary to stay expert and master these processes.
There is also a topic that arises, maybe we'll end on this, but I think it's the idea of, with artificial intelligence, we briefly touched on the subject. Will we end up having no more human interactions? That is to say, we will always be engrossed by this extraordinary intelligence of artificial intelligence and no longer need others at all. And ultimately, contrary to all expectations, the opposite is actually happening. That is to say, the employees we interview, at least for now, so it would be good if indeed it could continue like this. Maybe it's the learning period, so we'll have to see how it turns out. But for the moment, when we ask about your interactions within the company, what is it like for you today? A very clear majority, 58%. Tell us that it has allowed us to be more collective, to be able to go and see the colleagues from the department next door, talk a bit more to the younger ones, etc. There are 22%, so a minority, who tell us that it has tended to isolate us, and 20% say no change. So the overall assessment is still very predominantly positive, and these are mainly connections that exist more from the top down, let's say. From the top down, it means towards employees who are hierarchically below you, but it also means towards the younger ones. And ultimately, if this continues, it can be something positive, because when we see that today, we are dealing with an inverted age pyramid. And there is a real issue in the company regarding skill development. Well, if AI can help seniors or middle-aged people to have more regular contact with the younger ones, it will be beneficial for the company.
So, in a way, the conclusion of this study is that AI, perhaps paradoxically, will allow us to refocus on the human aspect.
Yes, that's really the wish we can express today, and in any case, that's how it's happening right now.
Thanks, Céline.
Thanks, Florence.